Go ahead, Robin.
Good morning. My name is Robin Park, hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom, and it will be available afterwards through the link on the San Francisco Public Works website. This public hearing is being held to consider 5 items regarding tree removal under Public Works jurisdiction. We intend to go through the items in order posted on the website and being shared on screen. Just a little warning, I have a unstable internet, so I may go off a little bit. My apologies in advance. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from the hearing and make my recommendations to the director. The director will make the final determinations. When director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for 5 cases. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I will allow the property owner or applicant to speak. Then any member of the public or witnesses who wants to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you're a party to these proceedings, I'll call on you to speak. If you'd like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You'll then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments, then use Zoom's raise your hand feature. This actually was gone over with Cerise, so go with follow the instructions that was given. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit a written testimony to me by end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I'll ask the question. After our comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. Cerise?
Okay.
Okay, we will begin with order number 205021 for 870 Kansas Street to consider the following: removal of 1 street tree with replacement. Staff approved the removal and the public has protested. This is a rehearing of order number 204754 from May 24th. Marcus, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here and do that. Okay. So this first case, give me a second. There we go. This first case, as Cerise, this is Marcus Dotson with the Bureau of Urban Forestry Inspector. So the first case at 870 Kansas, this was reheard again from May 24th. It was the applicant applied for a 1 street tree to be removed in preparation for a garage and driveway installation. and the Bureau has approved. So this first slide is just showing the tree proposed for removal. To be consistent with the way we've handled other cases, other similar cases, typically when there's a new curb cut or a new driveway or something like that, the Bureau approves the removal of a street tree. This particular street tree has since been in decline. There's a good portion of dieback in the canopy at a couple different spots. This next slide is showing the many wounds on some of the main branches emanating from the main stem. The tree is, this is a more recent photo that I went out there for between the first hearing we had and the rehearing we're having today. And again, the canopy is, the decline is progressing pretty significantly. In addition to being consistent with the way we handle similar cases of driveway curb cuts and garage installations, we approve the removal of this tree. So there's another tree that came up in the last hearing. It's the avocado tree that is a significant tree, meaning it's within 10 feet of the public right-of-way. It's not a street tree in the way that it's classified. This slide is showing where the new garage is going to be placed. The subject tree for approved for removal is on the left, the yellow dot there. And then the utility pole is kind of marking out just the kind of constraints of this particular project. But that big green circle is where the avocado tree is. It's a rather large avocado tree, and the garage installation shouldn't interfere with this tree. I believe the applicant and their team is also in attendance today and will speak to the efforts and the lengths they're going to preserve the avocado tree and its roots during the construction and installation of the garage and the driveway curb cuts. Also, there's a tree location that was identified for a replacement tree for the street tree that is approved for removal at the staff level. The green box indicates the location of the new street tree. And again, it's just the utility pole is called out here. It looks like there is just enough room to squeeze a tree in there. So a replacement is possible at this location, and that's what we would be looking for upon approving this street tree for removal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcus.
Thanks.
Any public comments?
It looks like we have Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I think the applicant goes first. Is that the order of operations?
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yes, applicant.
We have Matt Luckhurst. Go ahead. You should be able to speak now.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, sorry about that. Yeah, so I've been working with our arborist, Scott Wheeler, to develop a tree protection plan for the avocado tree, which entails, blocking it off during construction and working with my contractors to develop a plan to make sure we expose our root system before we do any foundation work. So we will be using compressed air to remove the dirt, expose the roots, and then drill the foundation around that root system as to not damage the avocado tree. It's of paramount importance to me that we retain and keep that tree in good health through this process. And then with the street tree, understand that there is room to put a new tree in now, so we have no problem with that, and we'll replace that tree and add it. I have a tree protection plan here and updated drawings of our construction plan. I can either share or I've sent them over to Marcus, and as needed, I'm happy to share those with whomever needs them to further detail out our plan and how we plan on keeping this avocado tree safe.
I can promote you to panelists if you'd like to share your screen.
Sure.
Okay, just one moment.
Okay, so let me share my screen here. Acrobat, share. All right. So this is our tree protection plan from the urban arborist and Scott Wheeler, who we're working with, as well as developed by Brandon Podesta, the lead architect and designer at Podesta Construction, excuse me, who will be doing the build. So the report to identify an area around the tree, which must be secured in order to prevent accidental damage to the tree trunk, roots, or branches during all stages of demolition, excavation, and construction, and the most efficient means of constructing a structurally stable garage within the critical root zone of this tree without negatively affecting the structural stability of health of the tree. It is a very large avocado tree that we love, and we just got about 800 avocados off of. So we are very much hoping to keep it. The plan is we will not we won't cut anything over 6 inches in the root system. They are located throughout the entire front garden. So these are the requirements that will be followed. We'll put fencing material, orange safety fencing around the base of the tree, prohibit excavation, grading, soil deposit, drainage, and leveling within the tree protection zone, unless approved by our arborist. No disposal of any chemicals or gasoline, prohibit the attachment of wires or signs to it. Utility service and irrigation lines shall be located out the TPZ. So we will be running any irrigation we do outside of that zone to the other side of the property. And we'll be working with Scott throughout the process to review. What else?
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Lucas, that is your time. So if you do want to go ahead and submit this, I can forward it to the hearing officer as well. I will put our address in the chat, but you would send it to Urban Forestry.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now the public comment.
We have Mr. Clip. Go ahead, Mr. Clip.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Addressing the department, I just want to point out that this idea of replacement only seems to have come up after pushback from the public, which is pretty disappointing, coming from the only city entity that should be protecting and advocating for our urban canopy, which is the smallest urban canopy of any major city in the United States. I also want to point out that that's not actually a tree protection plan. You'll notice that it's dated March 18, 2021, which was prior to the May 2021 hearing that this was continued from. I've seen it. The department has it. It's nothing new. And according to that report, the arborist wasn't even able to get into the front yard. The so-called report that you're looking at was written by a guy who reviewed the tree from over a tall fence. Based on the plans that I've seen from SF Planning, it looks like the garage is currently proposed is going to require the removal of probably close to 30 to 50% of this tree's canopy. It's going to compress more than half of its root structure under a large load of concrete for this garage and will require the grading of its root mass to build the driveway, not to mention put the tree in danger of damage during construction. Orange fencing is a basic requirement of a significant tree protection as required under Article 16. That does not mean the tree does not get hurt. And then I just want to speak a little more generally here. This is really not about the health of this tree. As a matter of fact, I personally reported this tree to Public Works on account of its health a couple of years ago because I was concerned about its viability after yet another hack pruning job. And the response that I got from Marcus, who's here today, was in a nutshell that it was still viable. So it's hard to believe that here we are a couple of years later, the tree looks basically the same. And now we're saying that the tree is not viable. This has nothing to do with the health of the tree and everything to do with this garage, period. So I just want us to make sure that as we make a decision on this, that we have our eyes open because the world is burning up, our forests are on fire, and this decision will remove a street tree and slowly kill a large, healthy, significant tree so that we can put a roof over a garage, over a car. That's what this decision is, and that's what our city agency, Public Works, who is responsible for protecting street trees, will be approving. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
We have Scott Wheeler. Go ahead, Scott.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. So yeah, just to speak to the avocado tree, I have since been on site with the property owner, the contractor, and Marcus. We were able to examine the space up close and figure out a way to protect the root zone underneath the tree. The point, and I'm happy to provide another type of tree protection plan if the city requires it or wants me to word something a little bit differently. But it's pretty clear in the report and the plan that I did submit that we have three objectives. We want to protect the tree, we want to preserve the roots, we want to prevent soil compaction. So the way we do that is we set up a barrier around the tree that will prevent anything from impacting the trunk and potentially low branches. And then we're going to use an air spade or hand dig tools to excavate soil out from around the root zone in the area where the construction will occur. And we can get down 2 or 3 feet, which will expose all of the major structural roots. And then there's something called Geogrid. Tensar makes a good version of this product. You put that on native soil and fill it with base rock, and then you can put other soil on top of that, and that prevents soil compaction. So you can actually drive, you can walk. They use things like this in public parks. They used it in Yellowstone along pathways, and it prevents soil compaction through the root zone. So it shouldn't be a problem for this tree long-term to have a small section of the root zone appropriately protected and built upon with a small structure that will be able to house a car without harming the tree. And again, if the urban forestry wants me to submit a different type or format of tree protection plan, I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Next, we
Go ahead.
we have John Nolte. Go ahead, John, you should be able to speak.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you.
Great. First of all, I want to point out to the agenda, it only talks about the street tree. It does not refer to the significant tree, the avocado tree. So I think that's a problem with the agenda. The significant tree should be listed as, because it's also considered in the category of street trees. Secondly, there was no discussion of the replacement tree, what size would be, what's how many gallons, what is the timeline for the street tree to be put in, since you're taking out the initial street tree for the garage, and also what would be the watering plan for the street tree, and also what it would be. I didn't hear anything going in for the avocado or the street tree to do as for watering. Since you are going to be digging up for the garage, it would only sound correct to put some type of watering system in for both trees prior to completion of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Cerise, do we have another more? Public?
Yes, we have Lance Carnes. Go ahead, Mr. Carnes.
Hello, Lance Carnes here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay. I'm kind of a observer of Bureau of Urban Forestry's records, and normally when a tree is proposed for removal, a street tree, there's a place where they put pictures of the tree in a file. Normally, 2 or 3 photos show the existing condition of the tree. In this case, after posting for removal in March 2021, Buff filed 9 photos of the street tree. 1 month later, in April, they filed 3 more photos. May 13th, they filed 2 more photos. June 25th, just a couple of weeks ago, two more photos. Usually only 2 or 3 photos are filed for a street tree removal. Seems Buff is nervous about this tree for some reason. 16 photos. And also, as far as the result of this hearing, Buff doesn't need to be nervous about the outcome. It will say removal approved. Bureau of Urban Forestry posts street trees for removal. Buff holds these hearings, and Buff writes the director's decisions. Even though it says director's decisions, it'll be written by somebody in the agency. Going back to 2017, Buff has never written a negative director's decision. It always approves its own removal orders for street trees. So that's basically my comments. And I think, just to be direct with the homeowner, putting in garages and taking out large trees, which will probably happen with this tree, the avocado tree, is not a good plan for the future of the planet in San Francisco. I think we need to keep all our trees in place. And if you have a car, park it on the street. It's looks like it's not a very busy street. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. So is any more public comments?
I don't see any other hands at this time.
Okay. If there is none, I would close this. Is there?
I would like to just address some of the comments that made, if I can.
Sure. Go ahead, Marcus.
So thank you, Scott Wheeler. We did in fact meet on site, and the assessment and decisions about the tree protection plan were made not while standing on, looking over a fence, as was suggested by Josh Klipp. We were there, as Scott Wheeler outlined, looking over the project area and the roots. We also discussed the protection plan that Scott Wheeler more clearly went over in his comments about the type of kind of soil compaction resistant materials they're going to be using around the root zone, the airspace that they'll use to excavate and expose the root zone, the critical root zone of the tree, at which time typically an inspector, in this case it'll be me, that'll show up on site to take a look at the roots when they're exposed, to make sure that they're adhering to these things, and that large critical roots that may affect the tree aren't going to be damaged during this process. To Scott's question about an updated plan for these, and kind of, I guess Josh was mentioning that these plans were made previously. If there are new plans that kind of outline these in some clear verbiage, I'd be happy to receive those. And yeah, we should move forward with just taking those new plans into consideration and adding them to our files. When Josh was talking about the replacement and that we only went with the replacement after pushback from the public, this location is a pretty tight location. I think that originally looking at the space, only a small stature tree is going to be able to fit here. I do have concerns about the avocado tree shading it out as it grows. But given Josh's interest in this location and kind of we're going to do a trial and see if a tree can survive in this location, and that's why a replacement was eventually decided on. You know, San Francisco has a lot of not ideal places, and this is not the best spot, but we're gonna see how a tree fares in this location. Also, and again, the tree's approval at the staff level for removal. I mentioned in the presentation that to be consistent with how we've handled similar cases, typically when projects come to us with a curb cut or a garage installation, tree removals are approved because people need to do these projects. You know, this is a standard for how we've handled similar cases. And then Scott Wheeler and the tree's health. I just pointed it out. The tree's health has continued to decline. Josh mentioned that he you know, it came up on his radar before, and the Bureau decided not to follow through with having it removed. That's a case of the tree is, at the time, you know, the tree's health can change over time. He mentioned a time period of 2 years. That's plenty of time for a tree to decline to a point where it's not in the same health condition as it was the 2 years before. There was also no other pressing matter in terms of removing the tree. It was struggling. It's been struggling for a while, but there was no sort of instigating factor to have this tree removed. It wasn't a hazard or anything like that. We decided at the staff level that this tree can be left to struggle a little bit, and it just wasn't a priority given all the other tree removals and tree health concerns that we have throughout the city to allocate, you know, our resources to an area outside of our normal maintenance schedule, which we do removals and pruning. It just didn't make sense to, again, allocate all of those resources outside of our normal schedule. That tree inevitably would have been included on what we call a key map, where large blocks are assessed all at once, and our crews kind of handle removals and tree pruning at that time. So that's the reason for that sort of progression as the tree has been on a couple of different radars. And then moving down to Nolte's comments about the significant tree not being included on the agenda. The significant tree was not included on the agenda because it's not a street tree and it wasn't being considered for removal. The plans indicate that the tree is going to be well looked after during the construction, and there's no need to include a tree that's not being considered for removal on an agenda. It wasn't the reason why this particular case came across our desk. And as far as adding irrigation and water, that's not a requirement by the Bureau of Urban Forestry for people to put irrigation. It is, however, put into all of our permits, which we grant for tree planting, that say that the homeowner is responsible, or the planting party is responsible for watering the tree during the establishment period, which is usually 3 years, and it indicates the amount of water to be used on the tree until the tree is established. That's just a standard of practice when we issue permits for tree planting. And then moving along to the comments about the many photos taken of the tree. You know, that I'm not exactly sure of the why it would be, I guess, raised concern that we're taking many pictures of a tree. The more photo documentation of the life of a tree, the better. you know, and it makes sense that in preparation for a hearing that myself and other inspectors would go out to a tree to take photos of the tree to make sure we have sort of all of the things that we need to show that the tree's health, and all of the things that we need to point out or call out are there and readily available. And that was the end of my comment for that portion.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
All right, if there aren't any more comments, I would like to close this item, and I will make my recommendations to the director. So you still want to go to the next item on the agenda?
The next item would be order number 205022 for 222 Winfield Street. Go ahead, Marcus, when you're ready.
Sure. So this is the removal of a significant tree on private property without replacement. The staff has approved. This came to us by way of application for removal. This is a ginkgo. This first photo just kind of shows the upper portion of the tree and kind of its location in the yard in front of the home. It's planted in a confined space. It has a lean towards the home, and we'll see in the next photo there's significant decay at the base of the tree, which was a large reason for this approval. You can see there's active decay at the base of the tree, and it's on the tension side of the tree, the opposite, the lean, which is towards the home. This type of decay at the base of a tree is kind of, the tree is not going to recover from this. And that was the reason for this particular tree's approval for removal. And you can see this. I'm sorry.
Are you able to share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back here. Yes. Give me 1 second.
No problem.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, now it's beginning. Yes, thank you very much.
I apologize for that false start.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, so this first photo, I'll just go over it one more time. This is showing the tree kind of its general location in the yard in front of the home. Has a slight lean again towards the home, and then in this next slide you'll see the decay at the base of the tree. Photo 1 on the left shows kind of a zoomed out photo of the decay at the base of the tree. As I was saying before, that the tree is not going to recover from something like this. And then this next slide here is showing the slight lean or bow towards the building. And this tree was approved for removal based on that root crown decay. And replacement is not possible in this location just because of the proximity to the home, and the sidewalk's not wide enough for a street tree at this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yes.
Is the applicant, will the applicant speak?
Yes, just a moment. We have Rebecca raising her hand. Go ahead and speak.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I am one of the applicants. I live in 2221 Half, which is the bottom unit that we just saw. Thank you very much for presenting our case. So yeah, the reason why we're requesting to remove this tree is a combination of things. Our main concern is the rot at the bottom of the base, and also the fact that it's leaning toward the house and pushing the load-bearing wall in the bottom. It's a fairly confined space. It's really a small planter at most 3 feet wide and maybe 2 feet deep. And this tree was planted almost 20 years ago, and it's now really outgrown that area, and it's being a bit of a problem. The rot is a problem, and yeah, so that is our main concern for that area at this moment. And I think, so yeah, that's why we're requesting to remove it. My neighbor, Stacy, should also be on this call, and she should also comment if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is Stacy another applicant?
Yes. She was having some internet issues, so I don't know if she's on the call right now.
Okay, Stacy's on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I planted that tree maybe 20 years ago, and I, around the same time, worked with friends of the Chinese hackberry, which is, there are probably 2 trees within 10 feet of each other. My friend, who was also an owner of the building at the time, we had no idea this ginkgo would get so huge because it was probably a foot tall. And the 2 trees, not only is the tree diseased and leaning into our house and growing into our house at times, it's unhealthy, and we planted it in an unhealthy spot. I mean, you know, you make mistakes. I very much like trees, and I'm sorry to have the tree, you know, turn out to be a hazard. It's cracking a retaining wall as well. It also ended up being a female. It takes about 20 years for a ginkgo to turn, to show up as a female. And the neighbors are, you know, as well as me, are very upset by the stinky balls of the tree. I don't know if anybody is familiar with female ginkgo trees, but San Francisco doesn't allow them actually to be planted. And I probably removed maybe at least 3 composters up and down the street of these stinky balls that everyone steps into and is complaining about. I like trees a lot. We have a tree that I planted in our backyard. We have a very, very small lot. Again, there's also a Chinese hackberry on the street that I planted that has been competing with the ginkgo tree all these years. And if you want to talk about carbon credits, I planted 1,200 trees single-handedly in the Sierras. So I feel like maybe I could use some of my carbon credits. So yeah, but my concern is the tree is diseased and it needs to come down, and the Chinese hackberry would do much better. And I've had that professionally trimmed and taken care of, even though they fall under the jurisdiction of the city. The ginkgo is also only 1 foot into the jurisdiction of the city, although it's on my private property, because Bernal Heights, our lots are so small. And there was really no other room for us to put that tree in 20 years ago, that it was 1 foot tall, and we had no idea that it would turn out like this. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for the applicants, Stacy and Rebecca? Okay, we'll move to the public comments.
Go ahead, Mr. Clip.
Thanks. And Stacy, thank you for your work in the Sierras. I just got some land up there myself and look forward to doing some tree planting up there. It's the point that a tree removed in this city anywhere is a loss to the city everywhere. And in a city with the smallest tree canopy of any major city in the United States, surely we can find a spot to replace it. And it sounds like there is a tree lover here in the applicants, people who love trees. So I'm not clear why the Bureau wouldn't work in partnership with those applicants to find a nearby space where another tree could be planted, because I can almost guarantee you there's probably a spot within 1 block of this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clip. I don't see any other hands at this time.
Thank you. Marcus, do you have anything to add?
Yes, just the comment about finding a location in the immediate area for a tree. It is difficult to require a tree be planted, for instance, at a different address or adjacent to a different address. We have in the past planted trees for larger projects that are not in the same vicinity as where the tree was removed. But it's a bit difficult to do this particular type of requirement to replace the tree if there's not room kind of immediately adjacent to the subject property. That it's just it comes down to a matter of watering. You know, it abuts the frontage of somebody else's property. It becomes increasingly difficult when you enter in those factors. So that's the reason why replacement, the removal was approved without replacement at this particular location. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Right, if there are no more comments for this item, I will now close the item and will make my recommendations to the director. Okay. Hearing nothing else, we could go to the next item.
Next, we have order number 205023 for 900X California Street median. Go ahead, Marcus.
Carolina.
Hi there. Can you see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Okay, here we go. So this project came to us by way of application for removal of 8 trees. The staff has approved the removal of 8 trees. This is in conjunction with a median on Carolina Street. It's a rather large median. The project is going to take place in the first portion of this median nearest 900 Carolina Street. And I'll kind of give you an overview of what that project looks like. So this is the view from the street, kind of looking down towards the median, and the median extends an entire block. It goes all the way down the street here. So the star on the left is where that photo was taken, to give you a little bit of a perspective of where these trees are located within the median. So there's 8 trees. The first is a Brisbane box. The second here, can everyone see my cursor as I'm going over these?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this one here, just for reference, is a Pittosporum. This is a Melaleuca species. These 3 here are 3 Pittosporum, and the 2 back here, one is a coffee berry and the other is a blackwood acacia. All of these trees are kind of look to be volunteer trees. They weren't planted per se. They're just trees that managed to find a place and started growing. So they're all smaller, multi-stemmed trees, and we'll go over those as we continue. So tree 1 is a Brisbane box. It's kind of growing up and out of this coniaster here, the shrubs. Let's go to the photo 1 on the left. This is the Brisbane box. As you look up to the canopy of the tree, its canopy is, there's a lot of dieback here. Canopies for Brisbane box trees are much fuller on a healthy, thriving tree. Again, you can see another photo on the right here. As sparse foliage on the left and pretty noticeable significant dieback on the right. This is tree 1 proposed for removal. Tree 2 is this multi-stemmed pittosporum here. This is kind of just adjacent to the roadway, growing out of a patch of some jade plants here. But this one is, again, really sparse. I suspect that it's, you know, being shaded out, and other reasons why its canopy is kind of just stunted a bit. In the photo on the right, you can see more dieback. Again, that's tree 2. Tree 3 is this Melaleuca. This is kind of a, you know, has a very significant lean, as you can see from the photos. It's got a kind of unusual form, but this tree was selected for removal as well in association with this project. Excuse me. Tree 4, again, another pittosporum, multi-stem pittosporum, kind of struggling in under the larger trees, as the first one was. Tree 5 is just adjacent. You can see in the center photo here, this is the first tree we looked at, or I'm in this grouping of 3. We're now looking at this tree here. This is the one from the backside. Again, a multi-stem volunteer. This is it here. Tree 6, this one is struggling. It has some root crown rot as well. This tree probably won't make it to maturity. This is another tree that was selected for removal. Tree 7, this is the coffeeberry towards the end of the project scope. This one was selected for removal. It's a multi-stem. It's very close to a utility pole. It's also kind of emanating from the same location as tree 8, which we'll talk about next, which is right here. This is the blackwood acacia. Poor structure. This is, again, you know, adjacent, really close to the utility pole. Another volunteer tree, and really close, planted, or I'm sorry, growing really closely to this coffeeberry here. The project team does plan on replacing the 8 trees that they're removing, kind of adjacent to their project area. I'll let them speak to the particulars about their project, but they have some community members that are really interested in investing in this space and making it something that they can enjoy. So again, this is an overview. Again, that photo in the beginning was at the beginning of the project here. The last 2 trees we looked at, the coffeeberry and the volunteer blackwood acacia, are here. The project has proposed 8 trees to replace the 8 that they're removing in this location in kind of a grove formation. And this is a photo of the area that they hope to put these 8 trees. I think they're planning to kind of revamp this, and they're going to keep the bronze loquat, which is growing here. It looks like a volunteer bronze loquat, but they're keeping this, and they're going to plant the trees kind of around in this area for their replacements. And I think that concludes this portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. The applicants?
We have Catherine Blum. Go ahead and speak.
Good morning, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I'm going to speak first, and then Scott Slaney of Terrain Terrain Studios, who has been a fantastic partner in our project, will speak as well. I call myself the chief instigator of the Carolina green space, which is the entire median that we are looking to turn into a lovely environment for people. And we started this project in 2016 to improve what had been an abandoned property owned by DPW, to turn it into something. It's got great bones, as they say. And we created a project we're calling the Skyline Terrace, which looks, it's at the north end of the median, which is at the intersection of 22nd Street and Carolina Street. The median itself goes all the way down to 23rd Street, and it's 960 feet long and about 26 feet wide. But the top portion, the Skyline Terrace portion, is the flattest and most usable area for the space. And Terrain Studios has developed a beautiful layout for creating a really nice environment for people to really appreciate and enjoy. In the process of that, we would like to remove the somewhat sickly trees. And yes, Marcus, you're right. They seem to all be volunteers. They just created themselves. They came from whoever or wherever. I do have a presentation, but maybe I will let Scott be the one, because he's much more adept at these things. We did receive a community challenge grant that we applied for in the fall of 2019, and it was awarded to us in the midst of COVID in 2020. We're finally at the shovel-ready stage to really implement the improvements that we would like to see. And part of that is obviously addressing the tree removals and replacements. So we're hoping that we can pass this hurdle and create a much nicer, usable environment for people to enjoy and still maintain green canopies and trees. And we do love trees and we do love plants. We're going to be putting in low drought tolerant plants. We're putting in a new irrigation system. And so we have great hopes that this project will be a great success. And that's me talking. I think that's the end of my 3 minutes, probably. And would love to.
Yes, that was right on time, 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And Scott, I'm assuming.
Yes, go ahead. Scott, you should be able to speak.
And share his screen.
Oh, okay. Just one moment. Let me promote you to panelist.
We'll try to speed through it.
Go ahead, Scott, and unmute, and then you can share your screen.
Good
And
morning,
we can hear you
everyone.
now.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Catherine. Let me share the screen. Okay, got it. Catherine touched on many of the great points here. This is a brief image of what we hope to create at the northern end of Carolina Green Space, this beautiful Skyline Terrace. And just sort of an overview, this is sort of the history of the median, first constructed in 1931, 1932, with power lines along the northbound curb of Carolina Green Space. It's probably those power lines that have been the source of many of the volunteer plants that Marcus outlined. And then on the right is a picture of the median in 2018. So there's an overall master plan to improve the median, but our focus here and the community challenge grant focus is the Skyline Terrace at its northern edge. Catherine has been through the history of Carolina Green Space, which is an amazing community organization. But you can see here in this image taken from this Skyline Terrace, this incredible view of downtown looking north from its high point at 22nd Street. Been a huge volunteer effort over the years to clean up the median. A place really enjoyed by people, but obviously could be enjoyed more so by people if developed appropriately. So this is the plan. The idea is to preserve the trees that are healthy and viable and wonderful. There's many. And install a decomposed granite sort of porous surface with seating and access to it from adjacent streets for the community. The replacement trees are on the far left, if you can see my mouse. Here, I'll talk more about that in a moment. And we'll be going through, tree protection. Those trees that remain will receive sort of board plank protection on the trunks, so the trunks aren't scarred, orange fence protection around them within a distance for a time frame, and some select pruning to help shape them and make them healthier. We'll also be doing some aeration within drip lines of trees to promote tree health and growth and avoid compaction during construction. So this is just a quick image of what we'll be constructing. Again, the big tree you see in the middle is a beautiful tree that we'll preserve, another one of a drone to the right, and many others within the space. And there'll be this simple DG, decomposed granite surface, and pollinator gardens, the Melaleuca tree, that the body of it that will remain, the majority of it is sort of the star of the show in this design. So these are the trees that are being preserved. I think we've talked a lot about those, and they're quite beautiful. Marcus already outlined the trees that will be removed. And the area that we're planting the replacement trees in is sort of highlighted in pink here on the right, and Marcus discussed those in a moment. There are several species that we're considering, and this is sort of what the trees will look like when planted. Our hope is to plant trident maple trees in 24-inch boxes. And this portion of the project will have irrigation that will, the water will come from the Department of Public Works for the first 3 years, which would be wonderful. So we're believing that these can be established and be sort of on their way to healthy trees after the 3-year period.
Thank you, Mr. Slaney. That is 3 minutes. Ms. Park, did you want him to continue or submit these?
I think if you could submit it, I'll take a look and take it into consideration.
Sure, we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it for the applicants?
We have Richard Benkoff.
For the applicant?
I'm not certain.
Hello, I live on the, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, are you a member of the public?
Yes, I have been involved with the project, and I just want to support the project. I think Scott has done a terrific job, and I just want to go on record for saying his talent is going to make Carolina Green Space really terrific. And I don't know if I can give my extra 2 minutes back to Scott, but I just want to say that I support the project.
Thank you. So I think we could take public comments.
Okay, we have Mr. Carnes.
Yes, hi, Lance Carnes here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we could hear you.
Yes, I just wanted to second the previous speaker's comments. I think that the neighborhood, the Carolina neighborhood, the grant that you attained and the plans that you came up with are excellent. I hope a lot of neighborhoods catch on to this and do something nice with their open space. The downside of my comment, which I'm famous for, of course, is Department of Public Works and Bureau of Urban Forestry. I'm very happy that you got a grant and everything is taken care of, because Buff is actually out of money. They can't water trees or plant trees right now. And as I look down the list of trees being removed in this particular hearing, I think all were in favor of Buff because it didn't cost them any money, except for perhaps the first tree, 870 Kansas, which it's not clear whether the owner is going to replace and water the tree or whether Buff is going to replace and water the tree. So, but again, kudos to the neighborhood, and looking forward to visiting the area. Thanks.
Thank you. See, any Any more public comments?
We have Josh Clip. Go ahead, Mr. Clip.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to start by giving a lot of credit to my neighbors who came together to move this project forward. My guess is they're doing this not only entirely for free, but that they've also given a tremendous amount of their own time and money and fundraising to make it happen. That is such a work and over such a period of time. And I really appreciate what you're doing. That they've had to do it on a piece of land essentially abandoned by our city isn't lost on me. But again, I find my neighbors' efforts incredibly heartening and unfortunately our city's efforts disheartening. I'm also a big fan of the historical presentation. I try to make it to the Potrero Hill History Night every year. So I'm a fan of learning about that, where we came from, which I suppose also helps us figure out where we're going. On tree number 3, the Melaleuca, that was noted for its unusual form as opposed to anything wrong with it, just being selected for removal. I would encourage the community team here to maybe consider saving that exactly for that reason, for its unusual form, because those sorts of unusual occurrences in nature are often what draw us to those spaces and raise our curiosity to learn more about our natural world versus say something that is strictly by human design. Also regarding trident maples, so those are approved street trees and don't usually reach more than a medium stature. I would also encourage the community group to perhaps consider a larger stature tree, especially because there doesn't appear to be overhead interference here, and there does appear to be plenty of room to stretch out. And I would encourage, perhaps rather than the non-native trident maples, to maybe consider native coast live oaks that are not only native to this area, but are a rich source of, speaking of history, our cultural heritage here in San Francisco, and one of the greatest supporters of our local habitat. So that's really what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Thomas Namara. Go ahead and you should be able to speak.
Yeah, hi. Just here to say what a terrific project this is, and how this project simply represents a departure from how we traditionally define parks and public space, and especially in a post-pandemic world. And it already is a neighborhood gathering space, and this project will continue to nurture and foster neighborhood cohesion. And looking forward to seeing how this project rolls out. It's a terrific project. Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands at this time.
Great, thank you.
Actually, Ms. Blum has her hand up, but if you have further comments, Ms. Blum, we ask that you would send it in written to our urban forestry inbox, and we'll forward it to the hearing officer for you.
I'll look for that, Ms. Blum. Thank you. Any other public hearing? Marcus, do you have any comments you want to add?
No comments on the department at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. If hearing no more, I will close this and move, and I will make the recommendations to the director. Going to next item.
Okay, I will go ahead. I believe it's Peru Avenue Stairway.
Yes.
Okay, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
This project is kind of on the 600 block of Peru Avenue. There's a stairway that links 2 roads there, which we'll be going over. There are 12 trees that the Bureau has approved at the staff level for removal. This is kind of the just the perspective down at the bottom of the stairway, and it kind of meanders up all the way to the top there, and the trees are kind of dotted in and around the stairway. So again, that yellow star is where the kind of the perspective in that last photo is taken from. The trees are kind of dotted in here. The trees that are kind of circled with the initials are proposed for the planting in terms of the replacements for the trees being removed. And the 12 myoprums, which are being considered for removal, are the ones I'll be going over in the slides. I may come back to this one once I go over the trees. This similarly is a project that the Friends of the Peru Avenue Stairway community organization have taken an interest in and want to do a kind of a project on this particular plot of land, including replacements, but some place the community can use to use and just kind of beautify the area. Tree one, the first photo you're looking at on the left is a pretty compromised myopron. Its root plate at the bottom has seen a lot of movement. The tree has a significant lean, as you can see. There's a prevailing wind in this area that kind of goes down the hillside like that. But the canopy is really sparse, significant dieback. There was another portion of this tree that was that had failed, and the city had removed earlier in 2020. And this is what remains. This is kind of a close-up of more of the root plate kind of shifting, and the tree itself essentially fallen over slowly, but not in great shape. Tree two is a glossy privet. This is most likely a volunteer. Glossy privets, found all over the city. It kind of grows. It's a pretty advantageous shrubby tree species. But this one also was selected for removal in conjunction with the kind of rejuvenation that this community organization is going to do to this location. Tree three is another kind of struggling myopron. It's a multi-stemmed tree at the base. In the center photo here, you can see again where a portion of the tree has failed and has been since removed. The other portion of the trunk is falling away from this more upright stem. And then the final photo is just kind of a close-up of this junction, this stem junction here. Again, the tree can't sustain these injuries and recover. This tree was selected for removal for its condition and its decay and dry rot at the base of the tree. As we move up the stairway, tree four is circled in red. Again, really significant dieback. You can see in the canopy in the first photo, and also in the second photo is a close-up of the dieback. Myoprons tend to struggle later in their life as they, kind of senesce. I'm sorry. So that tree was selected for removal. This is a close-up here. And just some other points of interest when I was on site taking a look at these trees. There's a torsion wound here on one of the main stems of the tree, and then lots of crowding near the base of the tree. A lot of end weight is being created by all these stems and kind of an unstable branch union, very narrow angle of attachment. Tree four, tree five is up from tree four is here. If you can see my cursor, tree five is kind of going down the line here along the stairway. Again, another myopron that is in pretty bad shape. Lots of these trees have dropped limbs. Our department has responded to many calls and service requests regarding the trees dropping limbs. And there's a pathway here, so that becomes a concern. The second photo in the center here, again, is just kind of another photo showing the declining state of the canopy. Most of the stems appear to be dead. And again, the third photo on the right here shows the same. A lot of these trees that I'm going to go over have similar appearance and similar things affecting their health. Tree number 6 is again kind of going up in that line. lots of canopy loss, lots of dieback, a multi-stemmed tree. And you can see on the photo on the right, as we get a little bit closer, you can see branch failures down here at the base of the tree. These trees are reaching the end of their life, and these were selected for removal in conjunction with this project. This is just a couple of photos of some limb drop alongside the stairway. You know, these, I think these trees were selected for removal. Just these trees are actively dropping limbs, and they need to be addressed. Tree 7, again, moving up the stairway. This is a smaller myopron, but still has significant dieback. Some rot kind of seeping into the main trunk or the main stem of the tree. This tree will not recover from its current state. Moving up, another tree, tree 8. The same scenario is happening here. Lots of dieback. These trees all appear to be of around the same age, and I suspect they're just reaching the end of their life. Tree 9, another myopron in unfortunately sad shape. Significant decline in the canopy, lots of dead limbs. Tree 10, this is kind of coming back down from the top of the stairway. This is on the right of the stairway, whereas the other photos were the trees on the left. This is a myopron. It looks to have a little bit more canopy than the other trees that we looked at, but still significant dieback for this species. You know, this is the percentage of canopy flourishing and thriving is not typical of a healthy myopron of this size. Again, if you look at the photo on the right, the tree has a very acute angle of attachment at each of these branch unions. As the tree just is allowed to stay here, these become increasingly more problematic as the tree increases in size. Tree 11 is just next to the tree we were just looking at on the right hand side here. Tree 11 is circled in red. This is another myopron. Again, the canopy, lots of dieback, many stems emanating from the same area on the as far as the branch unions. The photo on the right is a closer photo of that. You can see the really tight angle of attachment for all three of these stems. The tree is in decline. And finally, tree 12. This tree is one of the larger of the myoprons. I think there's a few photos of these that I'll go over, but this is the tree here. A pretty large multi-stem myopron that has branches overgrowing the walkway. As you can see, the stairway kind of meanders just under the tree. This is a closer image of this tree. There's significant dieback, lots of dead wood, really acute angles of attachment. This is kind of on the upside of a retaining wall, holding the stairway kind of soil from falling over here. So this tree was also selected. A couple of places here that I found of interest were these kind of torsional stress wounds here on the branches that are overhanging the walkway. So this tree is, is in some need of attention, and that's why this tree was selected for removal. I believe the community group is in attendance, and they can speak to their plans for this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. So do we have the applicants ready?
Yes, they're ready. Did you want to go ahead and go in the order, like the mailings that we had shown you?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so I will call on Cynthia Vazquez, and as you introduce each next speaker, I will have the timer on each person. So go ahead, Cynthia, you should be able to speak now, Ms. Vazquez.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
That's fabulous. And I'm going to share some slides, so I don't know if that is
Okay, so
enabled.
yes, I'm going to promote you to panelist, and then you'll be able to share your screen and then unmute yourself, okay?
Okay.
Cynthia, you'll need to
Oh,
unmute.
yes, go ahead. There you go.
Et voila.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Marcus, for doing such a awesome job at showing those horrible pictures. I want to just say, we talk about history and where we are at, and that is sort of the overriding theme of our project is you are here. And I want to acknowledge with that we stand and live on Yelamu land here in the San Francisco Peninsula. So my name is Cynthia Vazquez, and I am the project administrator of the Friends of Peru Avenue Stairway. And I'm going to just share a few slides with you of some community work days that we've had where you'll see lovely participation and tell you a little bit about the history of our journey. Let me see if I have this. There's the next one. So we had the beginnings were back in 2018 in August. So we're almost at 3 years, where I met with one of the SF Parks Alliance area managers at the time and got sort of the skinny about how we need to go about to make this a better place for our community. So we've had a number of community meetings, starting with one in our home here on Madrid Street, and then others ever since. Most of our meetings have actually been on the hillside, and we've gotten the folks together to do all that grubby good work. We are trying to be as inclusive as possible. We've had elders, we've had youngers, we've had at least 6 languages spoken on our stairway. And we continue to get together. Of course, over the past year, it's been very, very challenging, but we have been progressing because not only did we get fiscal sponsorship from the San Francisco Parks Alliance, we as well applied for a community challenge grant and have been awarded. And I'm applauding with my hands in the air, because now we're going forward. And we hope to, basically in all of our community meetings, we recognized that the first thing we needed to do was to take down the trees that are really, not healthy. And then we have lovely plans that you'll be hearing about from some of our other committee members and community members to, encourage the city to follow through with the plan to remove these trees. I am going to introduce now to you our San Francisco Parks Alliance Area Manager, Sarah Hyman Katz. And the last slide is obviously a very drastic view of one of those limbs like Marcus showed, but going forward, we have only great hopes and visions for our community's future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Sarah. Sarah, you should be able to speak.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cynthia. And thank you, DPW and the staff for your time. My name is Sarah Katz-Hyman. I'm the Southwest Area Manager at the San Francisco Parks Alliance. And as Cynthia mentioned, the Parks Alliance is the fiscal sponsor of the Friends of the Peru Avenue Stairs. I'm calling in to support the replacement of the trees on the Peru Avenue Stairway because it is an important step in the next phase of refurbishing the space. As you heard, the Friends of Peru Avenue Stairs have won a community challenge grant which will fund both the removal and replacement of these trees and additional planting and improvements to beautify this community space. We are excited to be working with the Friends of Peru Avenue Stairway on this project and are excited to see the stairs continue to serve the community as a vibrant public space. Thanks for allowing me to speak to this project, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to landscape architect Bob Wood.
Can you hear me? This is Bob Wood.
Yes, yes, we can.
And I'd like to share my screen if I could.
Okay, just one moment.
Join as a panel.
So Bob, you'll need to unmute once you get promoted.
You should be able to share your screen now and unmute.
Can everybody see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm following on as a part of the team here, Marcus's good work and everyone else's. It is truly a team effort. And as you can see from this photograph, and you can see from the others, that it really is time for a renovation of the park as a green, active, and welcoming place for the Excelsior community. And we would really like to create a place that encourages a real social place and an interactive place for the community. Let's see, I want to go to the next. Okay, hang on. Oh, I have to, I'm sorry. This is a plan, and as Marcus was speaking to it, the orange or yellow is the 11 myopora trees and the one privet tree that are in terrible shape. They're diseased, and we really feel they need to be removed. And when they are removed, then it will reveal a real opportunity then to now, they're really a part of then renovating the stairway. And so we would replace the myoporum trees, which 11 myoporum trees began to represent a monoculture. And so we're looking at 3 loosely grouped 4 or 5 trees each, and this is in progress, but we're looking at native California buckeye, island oaks, and tristanias, 12 trees total, to then replace the trees that are being removed. And then below the trees, the new trees then, and coordinated then, will be then shrub planting, and there are a number of categories there that you can see, and the most important ones are, there is one portion that is a neighbor has planted a shrub planting that will remain. The 2 big categories are, because of the steep slopes, we have to do erosion control. So there'll be erosion control fabric and deep rooted shrubs and ground cover to retain the slopes. And that will go along with reconditioning the soils for the new trees and the new plantings to invigorate them and really establish the new plantings. In addition, then, there is then the large zones of shrub planting, and we're using native plants to provide vital habitat for bees, birds, butterflies, planting native plants, of course, trees and shrubs provide for ecological and sustainable choice for the Peru Avenue stair landscape that's low water use, low maintenance, and supports the local wildlife and community diversity. And we will, of
Mr.
course, do
Mr.
it.
Wood, I'm
Yes.
sorry, that's your 3 minutes, Mr. Wood. Would you like to submit this to our urban forestry inbox and we will send it to the hearing officer?
Yes, and that's perfect timing. Here's a list of plantings and I'll send this along. I really appreciate it, the time. And I'd like to introduce Pam Axelton, the lead from Athens Avalon Green Open Space.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, you should be able to speak, Pamela. Ms.
Hi.
Axelson, yes.
Hi, you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Well,
Just
yeah,
one moment.
I'm Pam Axelson, and I'm the park steward of the Athens Avalon Green Space, which is really just around the corner from the Peru Avenue steps. And we started that project in 2008. I think it was a few years before we actually got to begin developing the garden. But just from seeing the photos, which were extremely, Marcus's photos, all the photos of the trees and the condition that they're in, and the discussion about what caused that, I can see that the tree removal on this site is absolutely the thing that needs to be done before anything else can be developed. We had barriers to getting going on our site too. Every site has them. And this is a significant barrier for transforming this into what will be a beautiful neighborhood garden. And at Athens Avalon Green Space, we are so pleased to know that there's a highly enthusiastic group working to improve the Peru Avenue Stairway, which I think of it as our sister stairway, and the garden over there. The Peru Avenue Stairway, I haven't heard this mentioned, but it was a garden. The garden and the planting there were the vision of a woman who lived at the top of the stairway many years ago. I mean, I'm thinking maybe in the 80s. Somebody maybe knows the answer to that question. But it now is quite obviously a need for serious revitalization, as many have said. The combination of these two neighborhood green spaces with their stairways will be a fantastic addition to this part of the Excelsior. And at Athens Avalon, we have lots of visitors who actually have been brought out here due to our stairs and the garden. We have seen through the years since 2008, we've seen how developing the garden and the green space can develop a community, create a vibrant neighborhood, and many, many new friendships. The people in this area all know each other as a result of the work that has been done up there. And the garden itself has inspired, and the steps have inspired new homeowners to improve and maintain their properties. So it's clear that those 12 trees, I'm just here to support the removal of the trees. They need to be removed. The Bureau of Urban Forestry has made a really good case for that. I can't imagine why somebody would protest removing such a diseased tree, given that I know that there are replacement trees coming, and they're going to be California natives and suited, based on the Bureau of Urban Forestry, suited for the space. And removing these trees and then beginning to plant new trees will get the process of redoing the garden and so on. It will be a beautiful space. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of this, and hopefully I'll have some time to also help out from time to time. But I totally support the removal and support the whole project from my perspective. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Axelson. We have Yoram, who was supposed to go before you, Yoram. Yoram Mayor. Let me see. Just a moment. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes,
can you hear
we
me?
can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm gonna keep it short. I'm part of the group, and we are going to remove and replace the trees. I'm not sure what the issue is. I think I was supposed to details the many 311 calls that I've made regarding cleaning up trash. The falling fiber line, it's not an electrical line, but there's a broken telecommunication line that's in the trees, actually, on the south side of the parcel that we would like to take care of. Again, I'm not feeling very well, so I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. And I think we have next on the list is Mary Stein. I'll find you in the list. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear the person from the Athens Avalon Green Space. I've been very grateful for that place. And I'm glad. I'm hoping we're on our way to joining you. I have been living in this neighborhood in the Excelsior, just a short walk from the Stairway, for more than 40 years. And it's been, the Stairway has been really a gateway for me on my way to McLaren Park many, many times. On the steering committee, I've been so impressed by the sensitive and knowledgeable planning that has gone and is going into this project, including choosing replacements for the trees, replacement trees that are suitable for this location and climate, where it's very windy. The trees that have been marked for removal, and it's so clear from these photographs, the condition that they're in. They have contributed over the years to the Stairway, but now they're no longer thriving, and they may even present a hazard on a hillside that's as windy as this one. So I certainly hope and believe that we can let them go now, and with our thanks for the contribution they've made. Thank you. I'd like to turn this over and introduce another member of the steering committee, Melissa Dar Carvajal.
Melissa, are you there?
It looks like she's not present per Cynthia Vasquez.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say there is one caller. If you are calling on the telephone, you would press *9 to raise your hand for me and let me know if that's you. If not, the next person that we have on the list is Gabriela Hasbun. I apologize if I mispronounce it. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name's Gabriela Hasbun, and I live a couple houses down from Peru Avenue Stairs. I work from home, so I use the stairs practically daily to go for walks in McLaren Park. And we moved here in 2010, and I can tell you the trees in the park has taken a steep decline over the last 10 years. It's just been in constant decay, and it's a little bit dangerous to even walk up sometimes. Like my kid trips on some of the branches that are on the stairs. And I can't stress enough how much it needs maintenance and the removal of the trees. I have an 8-year-old son, and we use the stairs very frequently, again, almost daily, to walk to McLaren Park. He goes to an after-school program there, especially during the pandemic. And it's just, you know, the conditions of the park, I feel like, have gotten worse. What else? Yeah, and the number of 311 calls that I've had to make due to neighbors just using the bottom of the stairs as a trash can is yeah, it's just countless numbers of times that I've had to call. I even know some neighbors who go there to leave things, just like as like furniture and all sorts of like leftover food and trash that then gets broken into by raccoons or skunks, and then it just becomes a giant mess. And so we have this beautiful stairway that can be used as a community hub or like neighborhood park, and instead it's just really used as a trash can. And it's just a really sad use of the space. So I can't stress enough the importance of, you know, getting this project underway, because it will really help our neighborhood as a community and a lot of the children who live here. I mean, we have a very small yard, and so I know that having this space cleaned up will be very useful for my family and for a lot of the families that live on my street. So our children can go use this space and, you know, use it to the max. So yeah, so thank you to Cynthia for starting this, and to the friends of, you know, everyone who's put so much time and energy into cleaning up this space. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Hasbun. We have Gustavo Vazquez.
Can you hear me now? This is Gustavo Vazquez.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So I have lived, somebody is talking somewhere. I have lived here in San Francisco. I came here in 1977. And I moved to the Excelsior, to Madrid and Peru 21 years ago. And, you know, I'm 67 years old. I walk from here to McLaren Park and go through the Peru stairways about 3 to 4 days a week. And honestly, when it's windy or raining, I'm getting afraid that something's gonna fall on me. And then there's other community members, like the person before me was mentioning the children. A lot of people use the stairway to go and rest there, have a view, or go all the way to McLaren Park. And I think if we wait, or people that are against removing those trees, who's gonna be responsible when there's an accident and it's too late? I really think that it is a danger. And the whole thing is that it's going to be replaced. And not only that, the project is to beautify the space. And we know human psychology. When something is well kept, people keep it clean and respected. If it's been unkept the way it's unkept, people do feel that it's a trash can, and they go and drop things off, and it's been that way. And you can see it, all the cleaning that the community did was because it's unkept. So I hope that those people that are against it get an education, and that they will understand that we, the immediate community, do want to beautify it, and we support removing those trees because they're going to be replaced. They're not just being removed trees. We know that we want green spaces in the city, not just get rid of trees. Obviously, we love nature, but it will be replaced with young, healthy trees. That's what I have to say and share with all of you. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. And we have Linda Asato. Just a moment. Linda, are you on the line or are you calling in by phone? You could press *9 to raise your hand. Sorry. Okay. I believe that's all. And we do have Mr. Lance Carnes who would like to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Carnes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, my name is Lance Carnes. I'm not a member of the Peru STEPS community, but I'm really impressed with what I've heard, and including the Carolina median project. I'm really happy to see 2 neighborhoods in the city really take an initiative and get things beautified with new trees and steps and parks. And actually, I wasn't planning to stay for this entire removal hearing, but I was curious to hear about these projects. And here's a little comment that you folks, Marcus and the hearing officer, can send back to Bureau of Urban Forestry. BUF does almost no public outreach. We have no idea what they're up to, what their plans are, yada yada. I think that, for example, just highlighting these 2 projects, getting them online for people in the city to review would give other neighborhoods the same idea. You can get a grant. You can beautify an area in your neighborhood that you think is dangerous or could be used more wisely. So please send that back to your chiefs and look forward to some sort of a public outreach from Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carnes. And we also did have Evan B. from the group who wanted to speak. So, okay, go ahead. You should be able to speak now.
Cerise, this is Cynthia Vasquez. I think you unmuted me. I know people, were trying to make it, so I don't know whether he's here. I just wrote him an email, but if you see another little hand.
Yes,
raise,
I do. I do
okay,
see. Just
then
raised
I'm
his hand.
going. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hold on, I'm going to put on my headset because I can't hear you guys. So sorry. Hello, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Hi, my name's Evan, and I live at Naples in Peru. I live fairly close to the steps, and I often walk through the space. I've been living in the neighborhood for about 12 years now. I am currently a gardener for the city of San Francisco and have been for 2.5 years, and I worked for Flora Grub Gardens before that. I have been gardening much longer since I was a child, so I definitely love this space. I've definitely grown attached to it, and I see that it has so much potential. The trees on the Peru Avenue Stairway are at the end of their lives, whether due to age, neglect, or disease, and I think that was evident in all the photos that we saw presented by so many wonderful people who've been helping. Many of these trees were planted in the 80s and are not native and haven't been managed or cared for since. The Myaporum, which is the majority of these trees, is fast growing and typically short-lived. It is famous for its leaf litter, which suppresses growth of other plants underneath or near it. This green space has had irrigation in the past, but it has long since been buried by landslide, and the one existing quick coupler is inoperable due to a clog somewhere buried in the system. Luckily, these trees are drought tolerant, but unfortunately, these trees have lived their whole existence in drought and have survived on fog alone, which means that they only have surface roots, and this makes them more likely to fall. The condition of these trees is poor, and when we have seen other trees fall on the staircase, it has taken months for them to be removed. They pose a danger, and the condition of their limbs are long, rangy, and brittle, and we've seen many branches fall as well. It's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt. Now, I'll be the first to admit that these trees have done an excellent job serving as habitat for wildlife and maintaining soil stability, but as they have reached the end of their serviceable lives, they will begin to no longer provide that service, but only stand in the way of the stewardship of this green space. We finally have a renewed public interest in the recovery of this neglected patch of the city. And the only way to make the necessary improvements, such as grading for public accessibility and erosion control, installation of proper irrigation, and planting of native species for improvement of animal habitat and public enjoyment, is if we start with a clean slate. And a clean slate in this case calls for a removal of these neglected, diseased, and decaying trees. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. B. And for members of the public, we do have John Nolte and then Josh Clip. Go ahead, Mr. Nolte.
Good morning. I want to applaud the last two items that the neighbors have worked on to bring the spaces forward because of the neglect of the trees and plants in the areas. But I do want to make a point that was brought up earlier that we have these streets, alleyways, and mediums all over the city, and I would like to see more of these grants continued to the neighborhoods so they can fix or improve these open spaces that are throughout the city. And I'm concerned that I have seen some of them some in the past get money to do planting, but then 5 years down the road or something, they have no more money. And then the issue is who's going to take care of the improvements that you put in. And if you don't have enough community involvement, then that's the issue. But I see that it's a lot of community involvement at the beginning, but I think we want community involvement to continue throughout the improvements that are put in, and 10 years down the road, what is these two projects going to look like? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte. Go ahead, Josh Clip, please.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I just want to second Lance's point that a lot of times when these removals are posted, there's not a whole lot of information on things like replacement plans. So I thank the community organization for bringing those up today. I also want to caution our community to not mix up tree removal with trash removal. And I want to put in a plug for a great organization called refusefsf.org. They're doing a lot of incredible work on trash removal. Vince Young started this organization. He lives on the west side of town, but he works all over the town because we are one town, connected community, and we live with one another. Their trees, their trash, their clean streets, and their clean air, which is why I fight for trees all over the city, not just in my own neighborhood. Vince is partners with Public Works, and you can find, again, his organization at refusefsf.org. I encourage you to contact him, and he'll work to organize a neighborhood cleanup with you. Also, on a caution on mixing up trees and safety, Public Works is responsible for street trees and any liability they create. And also research indicates that trees actually increase neighborhood safety. So I encourage you to go ahead and Google that and learn more about the science behind that finding. I'm impressed with the organization here with all these neighbors. I can't tell you what lonely work it is advocating day in and day out against the removal of trees for things like garages and driveways. And I hope that some of you will join me in the future in protecting our trees as ardently as you are supporting your neighborhood project. As a planting leader with Friends of the Urban Forest, I've lost track of how many Saturday mornings I spent planting trees in your neighborhood, in the Excelsior. It's a neighborhood with one of the lowest tree canopies of any city neighborhood in our city, which is remarkable given what you've heard me say several times already today, which is our city has the lowest percentage of tree canopy of any major city in the US. It's also remarkable how quickly we're careening toward climate change, and our city needs to do all it can to not only plant more trees, but plant trees that are the best we can give to our local environment and habitat. And on that note, I would just like to thank the community for planning to plant some buckeyes. I've grown many of those. Actually, I've got a few that I'm growing out in my backyard in planters right now. They are remarkable trees, again, with a lot of cultural significance. And once again, just suggest perhaps the addition of some coast live oaks to your plan. These are fantastic for erosion control, which you mentioned in your presentation concerns about. And they are also perhaps one of the greatest supporters of our environment and local habitat. So nothing does more for erosion habitat in our environment than an oak tree or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clip.
Do we have any more public comments?
I don't see any other hands at this time.
Okay. If there's, Marcus, do you have any comments that you want to add?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no more public comments. I think we could close this item. I'll make a recommendation to the director. We'll move on to the next. And this is the last item on the agenda, Cerise?
Yes, there's one more item.
Okay. So I've just shared my screen. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Yes, we can see in here. Thank you.
Okay, 535 Laidley Street, the removal of one street tree with replacement. The staff has approved and the public has protested. This is another myoprim. This is a street tree. It has thrips, which affects the health of the tree. It's kind of indicated by this typical leaf curl that you see. It's caused by this insect on the left, but it affects the tree's health. And as you can see, this larger photo on the right, they look similar to the trees we were just looking at. Kind of lots of significant dieback in the canopy here, really sparse. And this tree also seems to be reaching the end of its life in this location. So this tree is in pretty poor condition. The structure is not poor structure. You can see the dry rot and some of the decay on some previous limb drops here. This tree is just not going to pull through. Lots of canopy dieback. Corrective pruning for something like this is just not a remedy. The tree will continue to decline. This tree location could be reused for a new tree once this tree is removed. And in fact, the homeowners have committed to watering a new tree after this tree is removed and a replacement is planted. And that concludes the final item. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present in the meeting? Okay.
Sorry, I was speaking and I was muted. We have Tom Guinani or Guinane. I apologize for mispronouncing it. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you for giving me time. And thank you, Marcus, for presenting. Me and my wife are the owner of the house. That's the property where the tree is right in front of, and we had asked the city to review the tree because of our personal concerns that the tree poses a risk to both our property as well as any vehicles parked under the tree, as well as any pedestrians that walk under the tree. The part of area we live in, Glen Park, often experiences high winds, and during some of the winds that we've had this year, we've noticed that many tree limbs will fall on the sidewalk during and after a storm. And it just become more and more evident over time that the tree is in decay. And our concern is that one of the larger limbs may fall on the street or sidewalk, potentially injuring a pedestrian or falling on property and damaging it. So, as Marcus mentioned, we're committed to replacing the tree. We want to have a new tree installed, and hopefully a tree that grows to be as large and as beautiful as I'm sure this tree was previously. And so that's a priority of ours, and we're committed to watering it. But in the interim, we think this tree just poses a risk to the street. So, that's really the summary of why we've asked for this, and hopefully we can find resolution.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers for the applicant? Cerise?
I don't see any other hands for that, but I do see members of the public.
Okay, let's go to members of the public.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Clip.
Thanks. The only comment / question I have is about replacement. So a lot of times we approve these tree removals with replacements, and then it can be years before anything actually goes in the ground. I've pointed that out at previous removal hearings. I know this hearing officer has not seen those presentations, but I believe it was at the hearing before last that I showed a whole row of empty basins that have been sitting there empty for, I believe, over 4 years now. And even when a homeowner wants one, that doesn't mean that they get one in any kind of timely way. There was another example recently brought to my attention of some homeowners that went along with the idea to remove on the basis that they'd be getting a new tree. 7 or 8 months later, Public Works showed up to plant it, but then left when they realized that there were roots still in the basin, and there's no guarantee of when that tree is ever going to get into the ground. So I appreciate the homeowner willing to step up and water, because as I believe Lance pointed out earlier in this hearing, the city currently doesn't have much, if any, of a tree watering budget, which is why they're not able to put a lot of trees in the ground in any kind of timely way. So that kind of brings us back full circle of when is this thing actually going to go in the ground? And so if Marcus wants to speak to that, or if the homeowner has any questions about that for the city, that's my question on this proposed removal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clip. And we have Lance Carnes. Go ahead, Mr. Carnes.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that, the tree probably does need to come out and be replaced. I appreciated the applicants or the homeowners offer to water the tree for 3 years. And I guess this will sound kind of strange, but the Bureau of Urban Forestry is supposed to water replacement trees too. I've been monitoring replacement trees in my neighborhood in North Beach for the past 3 months, and they aren't watering hardly any of the trees here that they planted. So we have a lot of trees that are under 3 years old that were planted in the central part of North Beach. I just walk around each watering day and take a look, and they're not watered. So yeah, if a homeowner can do it, that's great. But why can't the Bureau of Urban Forestry get around and water the trees? They have watering trucks. They have a budget to water something like 2,000 trees currently. And they don't have a budget to plant any more trees because they can't water them. So just kind of editorial comment on top of the tree item here. So Marcus and hearing officer, if you could get back to Buff and see what they can do about not advertising tree removals until they can adequately replace them and water them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carnes. We have John Nolte. Go ahead, Mr. Nolte.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. I applaud the property owner of wanting to replace the tree because of its health, and also water it. But I haven't heard what size would be put back in, how many gallons, and also the timeline in which we taking out of the tree, because usually Buff puts in the presentation also the timeline in which the tree will be taken out from the date of the hearing to the date of the planting and removal of the trees. So I didn't hear that at all in any of the presentations. I question, normally that is part of the presentation that Buff describes the timeline in which all the trees that are planned to be removed on this agenda, when are they going to be replaced? What's the timeline from all? And that was never discussed on any of the items. And also I asked, I always ask the question about what size, because again, this is a fairly statured tree, and there's not except for the gas line, there's no other issue why a tree can be a large statured tree. And I applaud the property owner to watering its tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte. I don't see any other hands at this time. Ms. Park?
Yes, Marcus, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you. So replacements continues to be a struggle for the city for all of the reasons why that were raised. Watering is one of them. We do, however, have we're formalizing a system of replacing trees when we know a homeowner is ready, willing, and able to water the tree. If that's the case, then the city is able to get these trees in the ground in a more timely manner. As far as just the trees not being watered by the city, we have a framework for watering trees, an organization that Mr. Clip alluded to earlier, Friends of the Urban Forest. They also have some capacity to water trees that they put in the ground. I mention them because sometimes in instances like the last property at 535 Ladley, because the tree is not being required to be replaced because of a construction permit, the 24-inch box size requirement is not applicable. So the tree can be a 15-gallon tree planted by somebody like Friends of the Urban Forest. That's one of the avenues that trees can be replaced. As I was mentioning in the beginning, again, the city is formalizing a process to plant the trees, the replacement trees, given the property owner's willingness and readiness to water the tree through the establishment period. As far as the scheduling for removal and replacements laid out for all of the tree removals, it's perhaps one of the commenters was thinking of a larger project where there were 20, 30 plus trees being scheduled for removal and replacement as a package deal. But in terms of scheduling out the removal and replacement for individual trees on the basis that 535 would be removed and replaced is not something that we typically schedule out ahead of time. And I believe that was it. That was the last of my comments. Thank you.
Okay, that should be it, Ms. Park.
Yes, so there's nobody else that came late that needs to speak to any of the items? If there are none, I am closing this hearing. Okay, the hearing is now closed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.